much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we have Christine Hassler, who is actually a Texas native like me. I just found out. Yeah. But she's kind of like, you're a big deal on iTunes, like a really big deal.
Thank you. If you're going to be a big deal somewhere, I guess, iTunes is a good place
iTunes
to
is
be
the
it.
place to be. Like, I'm right here and you're like right here. So no, but you run the podcast over it and on with it. So I wanted to give you a little opportunity to let the people listening kind of know what your podcast is about, and then we can just take it from there.
Yeah, and we're all in it together, we're all side by side, just doing our part to uplift consciousness and to create different types of conversations, which is important now more than ever. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so man, so much to talk about. You are a life coach, author, speaker. You've written a book, Expectation Hangover. You've written a bunch of books, haven't you?
Yeah, that was my third.
The Expectation Hangover is kind of, I think, a perfect fit for my audience too, because so I haven't read the book in all man, I can't even talk today. In all honesty, I haven't read the book, but I did kind of see some of the promotional materials, and I think it is a really great, God, I really can't talk today. I think it's a really great fit for the audience. And it's kind of like when things don't go your way in life. And
yeah. Well, I can define an expectation hangover, and I think a lot of us in America, are in in that right now.
yeah.
But it's when one of three things happen: either things don't go according to plan, things don't go the way you expected, or things do go according to plan, but you don't feel the way you thought you would. Like you get that great job, or the girl you like finally says yes, but it doesn't give you that sense of fulfillment and making everything okay that you thought it would. Or life just throws you an unexpected curveball. Everything from getting sick to getting dumped to getting laid off to getting a really bad parking ticket. It's just those unexpected things that we have to deal with. And so basically it's disappointment. And the reason why I was so passionate about writing about this is, well, nobody really wants to write about disappointment. Everybody wants to write about happiness and success and love and all those things. But as a life coach and spiritual counselor for the past 12 years, and as definitely a student of life myself, I've always said I'm my own best client, I have seen that the greatest transformation becomes available when someone is disappointed. Often it is in the polarity, it is in the chaos, it is in those moments where we're brought to our knees and are kind of like, WTF, like what? That we seek help and that we start to look within. And sometimes it takes a few expectation hangovers because, when they first happen, we just want to get through them. We use coping strategies that don't work, like overeating, overdrinking, overworking, distracting ourselves. And we live in a time where it's really easy to distract ourselves. But eventually they get more and more severe and we go, okay, maybe I need to look at this. And I can think of my most severe expectation hangover happened when I was around 26 years old and I lost everything, my career. I was estranged from my family briefly. I was diagnosed with an undiagnosable health disorder. I was in debt, and I got dumped 6 months before my wedding. And this was all coming off the heels of having this massively successful career in Hollywood. And when I found myself literally on my bathroom floor going, WTF, and do I want to be here anymore? I had an insight, and the insight was, well, the common denominator in all of these situations is me. And that was sobering. And I knew that I could either become a victim of my circumstances, or I could really start asking, maybe this is happening for me. And maybe I have more influence than I think I do. And that's really what was the pivot point for me, not just in my career, but in my life.
Yeah, I didn't know that I'm sorry that perfect storm just seemed to happen, but it seemed like it turned out to be a good thing. And I absolutely love your attitude because people are so resistant to change. At least that's what I think. So what would you say to someone who is having an expectation hangover and they can have this pivot point in their life, but they're kind of resistant to it and they have these coping strategies? And this is something that a lot of the women who listen to my podcast are going through. They are resistant to change. They don't see it as an opportunity to maybe make themselves better or have a better life. They just kind of get broken down by it. So what would you say to someone who's in that frame of mind to maybe get them to look at it in a different way?
Well, I'll go back to one thing I said. It's happening for you. And one of the biggest lessons we're all here to learn is that our happiness, our fulfillment, our sense of safety, our sense of security, love does not come from an external source. And one of the biggest wake-up calls that we have, I think especially women, but I think just as much as men in a lot of ways, is heartbreak. Because we put so much into that, and we often, without even realizing, attach so much of our worth and our happiness onto being in a relationship, being chosen, being, with somebody, and it becomes so much of an identity. So what I'd say to people, especially women, is first of all, there's a massive sea change happening right now, and women are really coming into our power more than any other time. And I say this with absolutely zero againstness towards men. I love men. Men are amazing. And men are supporting women more than ever. And I think we need to keep that conversation positive. But one of the things that I think women are learning, myself included, is not to source our okayness or our worthiness in relationship. A lot of teachers that teach masculine and feminine say that men prioritize purpose and women prioritize relationship. Mm-hmm. And as a woman, I have to say that I prioritize them equally, purpose and relationship. And this is a time when so many of us are really stepping into our purpose. And sometimes we may need like a break from relationship to be able to do that. So I know you asked me just how people deal with expectations and hangovers in general, but I really wanted to talk about the relationship side because I think so many women really deal with that. So what I'd say is, you're part of a shift in consciousness. You're really being asked to go in and become a wonderful partner to yourself, to find that inner masculine inside of you that provides you a sense of safety and a sense of security, and also to connect with your feminine so that you connect with that voice of compassion and unconditional love. And yes, cry your tears. I'm very much into, part of expectation hangover. It's a very holistic plan. And the first part of the treatment plan is the emotional level. Let yourself have your emotions about it, but don't identify with them and don't judge your process. It's like we have our emotions, but we need to have compassion, and we need to also not indulge or identify with them. And to come back to that place of love, one of the biggest, I guess I could call it mistakes, people make when dealing with an expectation hangover, especially in terms of heartbreak, is they end up closing their heart. They think that just because a relationship is over, love is lost. And that's not true. A relationship may end, but love is infinite and love is our essence. And so how can you keep your heart open instead of trying to get through the expectation hangover by forming walls around your heart? Because it's a misunderstanding that we need to protect ourselves from love. Yes, we need to be discerning about who we choose to be in relationship with, for anything from romantic to friendship, even to family relationships. However, we do not need to close down or protect our heart. Keeping it open is how we feel more into that love and how we attract more love in our life.
Really great points here. And one thing I also wanted to mention, or I guess I want to get your take on it because you have such a unique way of looking at things. A lot of people listening right now, they're at this pivot point of their own. They're going through a breakup and they're at this crossroads where they're deciding, should I try to get my ex back or should I try to get over my ex? Now, what do you think? How should someone come to a smart decision when they're at this crossroads? Should they simply try to use your teachings or your methods or ideas to empower themselves? Or should they continue or try a relationship with the same person again, even though it didn't work out the first time? I realize there's no correct or right answer. Everyone's going to have a different view of this, but I'm really curious to get your take because you're smart. You know what you're talking about.
Well, I think it's like you said, it's different in every situation. But I always err on the side of, we are all here to really have a healthy and complete relationship with ourselves first and foremost. And I believe also in a relationship with a higher power, that can be anything from nature to Jesus, like whatever
Right.
I'm not here to, impose any religious beliefs on anyone, but I've seen enough and experienced enough that indicates to me that, whoa, there is something bigger in terms of a consciousness that we're all connected to. And so that to me has to be our first priority. And relationships can be a distraction from that, because
Sure.
if we're looking to get back with someone, to make them love us, to change them, to keep working and working and working on the relationship, it can distract us from looking at our issues, and so we really have to take a step back and go, okay, is this relationship for my learning? Is it here to really help me learn and grow? Or is this a relationship that really is something that I'm supposed to work on with the person? And it takes two people to really work on a relationship.
It
So
does.
if you're willing and the other person isn't, I would say let it be complete. Some relationships have an expiration date, and look more on like, why did I attract this person? And think about, okay, in my childhood, what love did I crave the most? From my mom or my dad? Or was it both? And how didn't I get that? And how am I dating in order to get that? And how am I trying to heal my childhood wounds through dating and through relationship? And how can I go and work on those and heal those so that I'm really dating as a grown-up? Because the biggest thing, Chris, that I see is that people are dating as 5-year-olds, as 8-year-olds, as 10-year-olds, as 14-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
this even happened for me. I was like the nerdy girl who like never got asked out. I was a super
No,
late
there's
bloomer. Oh
no
my God.
way. I don't buy it.
Totally, totally. Well, you're really sweet. But completely. And boys would be nice to me because they wanted to cheat off my paper, and that was kind of it. And so I always was going after like the popular, unavailable guys,
Hmm.
even as a grown up, I was 32 years old coming out of my divorce, and like I wanted to date like that popular guy. And I kept getting rejected and rejected and rejected because it was a core wound that I was attempting to heal through going out and dating. And then eventually was like, okay, I need to stop this and really work on healing this inside myself so I don't need to experience it anymore. So I'm answering your question, going off on so many tangents in a
No,
long
I
way.
no. I love it. I love it completely, because a lot of what I try to tell people is in the same line of thinking. Sometimes it's better to look inwards as opposed to outwards. And I've also found, so one of the, I don't know if you know this, but we have a lot of people coming to our website. So it's like the ultimate data source. And I can tell people to do certain things to maybe try to get their ex back and figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't work. One of the things we found consistently is people who actually move on have a better chance of getting their ex back. And I think it's a lot of that looking inwards type thing. And maybe it's also a little something you're putting out this vibe out there where you're attracting people, or you have a different, I don't know, feel or look or confidence to you. But a lot of what you're saying is kind of in that line of thinking where sometimes looking inwards, sometimes working on yourself, trying to get your stuff together is the smartest thing you can do. And relationships can be a distraction for that, because
Yep.
I think you need to put in the time. You need to have some type of alone time. And that could be probably a problem too for people who are constantly in relationships. They jump from one
Absolutely.
relationships to the next, and they don't ever have any alone time. So they don't know really truly who they are.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
I want to ask you, someone who is that type of person who jumps from relationship to relationship to relationship, how can they break that type of a bad habit?
Well, and yeah, it's a bad habit. It's also just a coping strategy,
Mm,
we all want love
yeah.
and we all want to feel safe. So if you're identifying that and that's you, don't feel bad about yourself. Don't feel like anything's wrong with you. You've been doing the best you could. And so if you know that you're sort of trying to feel better about yourself and sourcing love and jumping from one relationship to the next, and really struggle when you're alone, then consider that, being alone for a bit. And I'm going to let me bookmark the word alone. Remind me to come back to that,
Okay,
Chris.
I'm book.
Being not
I'll write it down here.
okay, perfect. Being not in a romantic committed relationship doesn't mean you're alone, right? It's an amazing time to, like I said, heal those core issues so that you're not because there's many different types of relationships, and this is actually going to be my next book. I'm writing about the 5 different kinds. And and we're sort of sold this belief system that there's one person that's our soulmate, and we marry that person, and we have 2.5 kids.
Really, you have to blame Disney for that one.
I know, right? Disney and Hollywood,
right? Disney and Hollywood. That's their fault.
Exactly. I mean, I open up the book saying, as a little girl, I used to look up at the stars and wonder if my future husband was looking at the same star.
Oh my
and that
God.
we'd come together. You know?
And as lame as this sounds, I used to do the same thing except the moon. I remember thinking, I wonder if my future wife is looking at the moon right now. But
and it's beautiful, and I love love. Like, I'm not cynical about love and relationship, but I think that if we only think that there's this one person, and our whole purpose is to find that person and then we're complete, we're missing out on the amazing opportunity that relationships can be for growth and learning. Every person is a soulmate to us. And so by taking a look at our relationships and really asking, what am I learning? How am I attracting the kind of people that I'm attracting? What are the themes? And it's only when we're not in a relationship that we can really look honestly at that. So I'd advise people, if see that you're a relationship hopper and you're having trouble not being in a relationship, maybe take a pause, give yourself 6 months, work with a coach, work with a counselor, get involved in personal development work, and take an honest look about the kind of relationship you actually want and the kind of partnership that you actually desire, so that you're not dating and relating to fill a void, because it works. Like, we can attract people based on our issues. We totally can, but it's not always the kind of side-by-side partnership that I think to me is the ultimate form of relationship. Maybe? Yeah, exactly.
Now, we did bookmark the word alone. So
yeah. Well, and that also has a stigma. I think that people, especially women, often believe that life is better in a relationship. And I'm single, and I've been single, I don't even know, 6 or 7 years now, dated here and there. But
fun fact about me, I was single, I think 5 or 6 years before I met my wife. So sometimes it's important to take that alone time.
Absolutely. And the only time I suffer in being single is when I buy into the misunderstanding that it would be better if I was in a relationship, or something's wrong with me because I'm not. And that's just not accurate. And in this time, it's given me the opportunity to really discover who I am, understand my career, all of those kinds of things. And so we're not alone. The other beautiful thing that's happened in my not in relationship life is I've attracted an amazing soul family. The friendships I've had, especially even friendships with men, because when we're in a partnership, sometimes we rely too much on that person. They become the person we do everything with. And so it's an opportunity to expand your soul family, a step deeper into your purpose, examine your relationship with your higher power, whatever that is. So please let go of the misunderstanding that you're alone if you're not in a romantic relationship. And also maybe take a break from the whole bumbling and Tindering and OkCupiding and all of those things, and continuing to just find and seek and all of those things. Go do your life and do things that you love to do without any attachment to finding that person.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up too, because I feel like we live in this age where we're always on our phones, and there's the Tinder, the Bumble, whatever, OkCupid. People now more than ever can establish these connections without ever meeting the person,
That's right.
And I guess I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about that now, because what is your view on online dating? Are you for it, against it? Are you kind of indifferent to it? Because my personal view is I think it's a good thing, but you have to always take it with a grain of salt, because people are always putting their best foot forward, and sometimes they're not who they say they are,
Yeah. I think it's totally an individual thing. I personally don't love it, but I mean, I've never been, I even tried Snapchat for a while and I'm like, I just don't want to be on my phone this much, like
Yeah,
I just am not in the present
yeah,
moment.
me too. I tried Snapchat for like a month, and I really couldn't get into it. So I
Yeah.
stick to the texting.
Yeah. Like I like Instagram. I'm active on there and Facebook and I just for me, I really like the organic, authentic way.
Hmm.
But I'm also out in the world a lot. I put myself out in situations where I'm open to meeting new people and I don't just mean romantically. I mean just in all aspects. So I think that it all depends on your energy toward it. Like when I have done online dating and I've had the energy of cynicism or attachment or anything like that, it doesn't go that well. But if I do a little meditation beforehand, if I get myself really in my feminine energy, if I get excited about it, if I come from my heart when I write my description, if I put pictures that are just like me in my environment doing things instead of like selfies that are all like filtered out,
Yeah.
then I have a much different experience. So it all depends on the energy it rides on when you're using the app.
Hmm.
So if you really enjoy it and you really love it and you feel like it's an amazing way to connect, then great. But if you're doing it as a means to an end and you have judgment on it and it's a numbers game, then maybe reconsider.
Yeah, and one of the other things I think that I've heard a lot of people talk about, I had a woman, she was a dating coach. She came on my show. Her name is Marnie Batista.
Oh, she's one of my best friends.
Oh, huh, how about that? I had no clue. Nicest woman.
Oh, she's awesome.
But she was talking about like selection. The selection process of a lot of women is off. And you didn't say that verbatim, but that's kind of also what you're kind of talking about, because a lot of times honing your selection process means having that alone time and trying to understand what you want. And that seems to be a common theme as I interview more and more people. That keeps coming up, and I don't believe in coincidences. There's something to that. So I wanted to get your take on it, I guess. What is your opinion on how someone should select the perfect partner? Should they just try to figure out what they want before they do it, or is there some other special magic trick to it?
Well, and there's no perfect partner, right?
Right.
So, well, a lot of what we've said, first start with you. Like, right now I know that I'm most likely to attract a match that is aligned for my highest good in terms of what I want, because I feel more peaceful, more confident, happy, connected, on purpose than I ever have felt before, more in my feminine. And so that feeling of longing without desperation and longing without attachment is, I think, a good way. I hate to use good, bad, right, wrong, but a useful way to draw in someone that's not based on your issues, or someone that you're not drawing in because you're trying to fill a void. So that's the first thing I'd say. The other thing I'd say is please throw away your list. Throw it away, rip it up, throw it away. And
that is like the worst thing ever. I was talking to someone the other day about, I saw some crazy thing on TV, had to have been years ago, where this woman had like a list of 80 traits for the perfect man. And she had like dated a man who had filled out maybe 70 of them, but there was like 10 that he hadn't like gotten, and she would not date him. She was like so strict to this list, and I think it's really limiting, because there's no perfect person out there.
Absolutely. And here's how my advice for how to draw someone in, because a lot of times what we put on our list is things we want for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So on my list, before I did a lot of the work that I do now, like 10 years ago, or maybe more, when I was like right after my fiance broke up with me and I was drawing in my ex-husband, I had a list, and a lot of it was like super on purpose, successful, funny, like confident. And these were all things I wanted to be. And so oftentimes we project these things that we want to step into in our own life onto the other person.
Yeah.
And so if you do have a list, before you rip it up, look at it and go, how do I embody all those things? Like, how do I become those things, because
Very interesting insight.
what we're
Yeah.
longing for is what we want. And then when it comes to drawing that person in, focus more on how you want to feel
Mm.
and what you want to give. So I focus on, like, for example, I want to feel really supported. And I don't mean financially necessarily. I want to feel like I can just be big and shine my brightest light and feel like my man has my, he just holds space and is present with me no matter
Hmm.
what. So, and I want to feel like obviously attracted, and I want to feel challenged in a way that we help each other grow. So it's like, focus on how you want to feel
Yeah.
rather than the package it comes in. Because too many women make a list of, well, he's over 6 foot, he makes this much
Yeah,
money, he
exactly.
makes me laugh, he has a good family, like all of those things. Like, if you focus more on how you want to feel and leave the rest up to the universe, you're going to attract a much more aligned match.
Yeah, and a lot of times if you have a list of 80 traits, you'll never find anyone who meets them all. I mean, you're limiting yourself to so little. There's the odds of you even finding that is astronomically low.
And even if you did, Chris, that may not be your best match, because oftentimes we create those lists from our mind,
True.
and that it's like, ay. So yeah, throw away the list, but before you do, look at how you can embody all those things.
So the list thing. I love the idea of how it makes you feel, because so often in relationships we aren't how can I put this? We aren't driven by logic. We're driven by emotions.
Right.
A lot of the actions we take are driven by emotions or have some basis in how we feel or how the person is making us feel, whether it's angry, happy, so on and so forth. So I think it's a really, really great tip. What are some other things, though, besides the list that you can do to fine-tune your man picker, so to speak?
Honestly, like, just have a blast in your life. Like, be confident. It's really experience like your own sensuality and sexuality instead of waiting for someone else to wake it up inside of you. Have an amazing girlfriends. Have friendships with men. Put yourself in situations continually that stretch you and that get you out of your comfort zone. Find things you're passionate about outside of your job, ways to be of service. All these things that are, feminine energy, like receptivity and creativity and sensuality and surrender and the flow of giving and receiving. Those things that put us in our energy, our feminine energy. If we want to attract a man, obviously there are probably women listening who are wanting to attract a woman too. And I think it works the same way, because you want polarity.
Yeah.
You want to feel into what that balance is. And then, keep an open mind and open heart, and also look at what you're going to say no to, because oftentimes I say, and I write about this in Expectation Hangover, we get a do-over. Like, we finally heal that issue. We're like, okay, I've dealt with my abandonment issues about my dad, and I'm going to stop attracting unavailable men who end up leaving or aren't there, that trigger all my abandoned issues. And you work on it and you go to counseling and you really feel like you got a handle on it. And then a month later, another unavailable guy comes into your life.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you failed. It's the universe giving you an opportunity to integrate your learning and your healing by saying no. So watch what you say no to just as much as what you say yes to, because here's the thing about the brain. And I write about this in the book too. We form these neural nets in our brain with repetitive thoughts and repetitive belief systems. And our unconscious mind is 95% motivating our behavior. Conscious is only 3 to 5%. Personal growth work helps us really elicit more of what the unconscious belief system is, so we understand our operating system. So as that's changing, being very astute and very aware of, okay, like, what's attracting me towards this person? Is it my core wound around my parents? Mm-hmm. Is it my own desire to be more confident in my own life? Like, where am I attracting this from? And if you know that you're attracting it from old stuff, it's just being aware of that and creating a new picture and a new vision of the kind of relationship that you want and the kind of person that you want to attract.
I have to say, this book sounds phenomenal. I may buy it. That's how good it sounds. I'm going to make
Well,
it like required reading for all of my No, but perfect segue. Tell us a little bit about Expectation Hangover and all the other ventures you have going on, because you are all over the place. Like, so popular. Just brag about yourself.
Oh, you're sweet. I really feel blessed. I really love what I do. And like I said, I've been my own best client and listener. And I've used everything that's happened in my own life to really be vulnerable and really share. And so I speak from lots of training, but I also speak from life experience.
Yeah. So. And have you ever noticed that? I remember when I started doing that, when I started kind of telling really painful stories from my past, people really connected with me more. Have you found that to be the case too? Like, oh, wow, look at this they're bearing their soul. I trust them, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a mix. I think that we have to be careful about like bonding on woundology, you know? So it's that mix of sharing, you know, our victim to victor story, but also just really being a stand for also like standing in our power, you know? And so I love being vulnerable and sharing with people what's going on in my life, but it comes from I see people out there share and are vulnerable, but they're kind of still in their victim energy. And that can create that woundology bond. And so I encourage vulnerability, but let it ride on the energy of strength and love and healing rather than sympathy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
So for me, Expectation Hangover, you know, was something that I wrote after my divorce and after, you know, being a coach for almost a decade. Then I wrote it in 2004 and I started coaching in 2004. I mean, I wrote it in 2014. And started coaching in 2004 when I was, you know, just a baby. And I wanted to deal with the massive expectation hangover that I felt so many people in the personal growth industry were facing, because they would read one book or do their affirmations or their meditation or write their vision board and things still weren't changing. And I felt like they were failing at personal growth. And what I noticed is there wasn't a lot out there that was extremely holistic, that dealt with emotions, thoughts, the mental level, actions, the behavioral level, and spirituality, like that kind of fifth dimension, that higher power, whatever that is. And so that's what Expectation Hangover is. It's a holistic, really healing treatment plan to free yourself from your past, change your present, and get what you really want.
And where can someone buy Expectation Hangover?
I mean, easy Amazon. That's an easy place to get it. It's in bookstores. It's on Barnes & Noble, that stuff.
I'll link to it in the show notes if you're listening to this and interested in her book. I'll link to it in the show notes. But didn't know it was in Barnes & Noble, so I may actually get the hard copy.
Yeah! Old school style. I love it.
I love you should see how many books I have over there. But
Me too.
And so in addition to Expectation Hangover, you've got this pretty popular iTunes podcast. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and try to convert some of my beautiful listeners over to you?
Bring them over. Thank you so much. I'd love to have you all come over in our community. It's a beautiful community, and Over It and On With It, it's on iTunes and all the other non-iPhone players as well.
Stitcher or whatever the rest of them.
All those. And I coach people live on the air. So every Wednesday an episode goes up where I don't know anything about the person before I hop on the phone with them, and I coach them for about 20 minutes. And before the call, I set it up a little bit. And then after the call, I break it down and explain what I did and why I did it and give people assignments and takeaways. So people love it as listeners, and also people that are coaches really love it because they learn a lot.
Yeah. And I have to say, I listened to one listener call that you had. I think it was a woman named Emily. She was going through a breakup. So you actually do help people through breakups as well. So it's really relevant to you if you're listening. Look, tomorrow you're going to have like 50,000 calls from people with breakups. So I'm sorry, Christine.
No, that's okay. I love it. And you know, the coaching sessions get filled up pretty quick. So if you can't get a session, just email assist@christinehassler.com and we'll get you at the wait list. And then the other opportunity is I have something called my Inner Circle, where it's a membership site, a community, and you can join and be part of my tribe and get access to a monthly coaching call. And I share customized meditation and visualization every month. And we work on like a different life hack and quality we're going to step into. Like every month it's a different theme, like forgiveness, gratitude, compassion. And it's also my place, because people ask me all the time about, I used to be a personal trainer. I'm super into health and fitness and beauty. And I have a lot of like those kind of hacks that I don't share publicly. So it's sort of like a behind the scenes look into my like beauty, health, fitness, travel, prosperity, woo-woo life as well.
That sounds amazing. So where can someone find or sign up for the Inner Circle? Just at your website?
Yeah, if you go to christinehassler.com, it'll be up there.
If you could, maybe after the show, could you just give me a link so I can link to it for people listening?
Sure. That one is christinehassler.com/inner circle.
/inner circle.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I have to say, one of my favorite interviews ever. It's a blast to have you on, Christine.
It was so great to be here. I love, you have such a great energy. I love that you're creating this container, and thank you for the awesome questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Any last words of wisdom?
Well, I'm kind of feeling into your audience right now, and I actually kind of, sadness isn't the right word, but I feel the longing.
Yeah.
And I feel their hearts. And what I want to say is, first of all, really, really, really be gentle with yourself, everyone who's listening. Being hard on ourselves and criticizing ourselves and thinking there's something wrong with us is the most toxic thing that we can do. And so I'm just sending everyone just so much love and really a prayer for self-acceptance, and coming into that place of really knowing all the love you're looking for out there, whether you're in a relationship or not, is really inside of you. And that relationships just become an expression and an extension of that. But honestly, if you talk to your friends like you talk to yourself, you probably wouldn't have many. So really work on being that loving, kind, compassionate friend to yourself, because that is the thing that will change your life more than anything.
I have to say, you just stole my entire audience. Thanks for that.
No, we share.
No, it was a blast, Christine. Thank you so much.